Devil's Roadshow by the Prowler. A 17-year-old girl named Sadie sat at her desk eagerly looking up at the clock, waiting for the final bell to ring. It wasn't just because it was another long, boring day of school and couldn't wait to get the weekend started, but also because the carnival was in town and her friends had big plans for tonight. 3, 2, 1. Yes! She exclaimed as she jumped out of her seat, rushing past Mrs. Johnson as she blathered about some paper due Monday morning. But she didn't have time for all that. All she could think of was getting to that carnival. As she ran through the corridors and out the front, she saw her 3 friends waiting for her on the sidewalk. There was Kathy, Judy, and Jessica. "Hurry up, Sadie! Let's go! We have to get ready for tonight!" all 3 shouted. Yeah, I'm moving as fast as I can here." They started for home as quickly as they could. They all lived on the same street, so they'd be able to leave right away when they were all done getting ready. Sadie's mom was driving them. As they got closer to their street, Kathy pulled a flyer from her binder, and it read, "A coterie of horrific delights awaits you. Put away your reserved inhibitions and come and enjoy the pleasures of the Demon's Roadshow." "I can't frickin' wait," shouted Judy. "This is going to be frickin' awesome, guys." "Yeah, I wouldn't be so quick to get all excited there, guys. Haven't you heard about the Devil's Roadshow before?" Jessica asked. All 3 girls looked at Jessica puzzled. "No. What about it?" they asked. "Well, the carnival travels all over the country, from small town to small town, and after they leave each town, reports start to surface of missing children that were always last seen at the carnival." Sadie looked visibly worried down at the end, as thoughts circled her mind of not going to the carnival with her friends. Kathy noticed something wrong and spoke up. "Don't worry, Sadie. Jessica is talking out of her ass. There's no connection between the disappearances and the carnival. If there was, then the police would have done something by now." Sadie relaxed a little after that and continued on with her friends. As the girls walked down the street, they said their goodbyes and agreed to meet back in front of Sadie's house at 6. The girls took 2 hours to get ready and were all outside Sadie's house waiting for her and her mother. Sadie stood there and noticed the excitement on her friends' faces, but for some reason, she just couldn't shake Jessica's words from earlier. She stood there almost in a trance, wondering, what if it was all true? "Sadie, get in the car, we're waiting," her mother urged. Sadie snapped to and got into the car. 20 minutes later, and they were there. As they got out of the car and approached the entrance to the carnival, the girls stood in amazement. Red and white tents greeted them in the distance. The sounds of excitement could be heard. The delicious smells of carnival food were wafting through the air, and the flashing, sparkling lights glimmered in their eyes. They approached the ticket booth, where inside was sitting an old woman dressed like a gypsy fortune teller. Judy approached and asked, "4 tickets, please," and handed the old woman a $20 bill. "Why, thank you, my dear. Don't you 4 look lovely this evening? I hope you enjoy your night. Try our haunted fun house. You'll do just fine, ladies." As the girls walked off, Sadie looked into the booth and saw the old woman crack a creepy grin across her face, but turned away quickly when the old woman noticed her. The girls made their way through the crowd, elbowing their way past large families and bratty kids to get to the center of the carnival. There they stood, surrounded by the glowing lights of the rides, the large Ferris wheel to the left of them, the octopus to the right, and in front of them stood the Demon Roadshow Haunted Funhouse. The chatter and buzz around them was picking up from the games next to them. "Hey, let's play some games, guys. I want to win that stuffed bear," shouted Kathy. The other girls agreed and played every game they came across, winning multiple prizes throughout the night. Then decided to take a break and grab some fresh hot funnel cakes after they rode every ride in the park. It truly was a great night. A night as good as any of the girls could have expected. The carnival was about to close, and people started filing out. But there was one thing that they had left to do before they left. "All right, guys, it's time for the fun house," Jessica exclaimed. Kathy and Judy shouted, "Let's do this!" Sadie, however, had a slight look of fear on her face. "Don't be scared now, Sadie. You're not a baby anymore, are you?" asked Jessica. Sadie got angry when she heard that. "No, I'm fine. Let's go," Sadie barked back. The funhouse was large and black on the outside, with skulls all over the sides, and a large devil's head over the entrance stared back at them. The girls grabbed each other's hands and headed inside. A hooded figure greeted them as they walked in the door.
"Hello, ladies. Enjoy the fun house. You look like you'll make lovely additions here."
"Yeah, right. Thanks, pal," Jessica said sarcastically. The first room that they stepped into was a hospital-themed one. Blood all over the walls, and a young girl bleeding, laying on a gurney, and an employee dressed as a doctor, pretending to stab the girl with a scalpel. Now the girl on the gurney was a fake prop, but it looked so real. Her eyes, the dried blood all over her body. It was very eerie. Jessica tried to get a closer look because something looked familiar with the dummy, but the guy in the doctor outfit got in the way and moved them into the next room. On their way to the next room, a few figures jumped out and scared them, then vanished back into the walls. The girls could tell Sadie was starting to get scared, so they put her in the middle of the group. Jessica led the girls into the next room. Now this room was dimly lit red and had a destroyed police station theme. There were fake dead bodies strewn all around the room, but two stood out more prominently than the others. A younger-looking guy hanging over the desk with his eyes rolled back and his throat slit, and a girl sitting up against the wall with two knives sticking out of her chest. Once again, Jessica looked at the dummies with a feeling of déjà vu. This time, though, she was able to get a good look, because there was no costumed employee to scare them out of this room. When she looked at their faces, her heart sank. She told the girls to run. They listened and ran out of the room to the next. Figures jumping in and out trying to scare them, props doing the same, each time making at least one of the girls scream out. After a few minutes, they spotted the exit sign and ran out. "What is it, Jessica? Why did you tell us to run?" Sadie asked with concern. "Those faces. I knew I had seen those faces on those dummies. They're the faces of the missing people from the towns the carnival has visited. I just fucking saw them in an online article I read while getting ready tonight. You know I told you about this carnival earlier. I wasn't making this shit up." "Are you sure?" the girls asked. "You're not just screwing with us, are you?" "No, damn it. We need to get out of here and call the police," Jessica shouted. "Wait a minute. Where the hell is Kathy?" Judy asked hesitantly. "She was right behind us," Jessica responded confusingly. "They shouted and searched, but she wasn't there. There were no other people left in the park to ask for help, and the doors to the funhouse were locked. They ran and ran till they reached the police station and told the cops everything that happened. They took them back to the carnival, and the police searched the entire park for Kathy, but nothing was there. They searched the funhouse as well, but it was completely clean. The only things that were inside were the props and bloody dummies. There was no trace of the missing people Jessica had seen earlier. The police questioned the operators of the park, but they denied everything. And since there was no signs of anything nefarious, Jessica and her friends were branded liars, and no one believed Jessica at all about what she saw or the missing people. Poor Kathy was declared a missing person, and of course was never heard from again. So next time the Devil's Roadshow comes to your town, don't go. But if you do, please don't go into the funhouse. You don't find kids who've been missing for a week. When you do, you won't like what you find. By Forgotten Well. Once Mr. and Mrs. Kelly arrive at the police station, I make them sit down. The first thing we need you to do is positively identify your son. The wife gasps. The husband blurts out, "Identify? You said he was alive." Slow down. He's alive, and we're pretty sure it's him. But, Mr. Kelly, I have never met your son, only seen pictures. We need you to identify him. Also, you should know, the man who kidnapped your son escaped." "What? What happened?" "The officer who pulled him over was searching him, and it's hard to see on the dash cam, but it appears a flower on his person sprayed something in our officer's face. With how fast he went down, we think it's fentanyl." "That officer is dead, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly. Now, we're having trouble identifying this man from the video footage because of the clown makeup." Mr. Kelly stands up. "Is this some kind of fucking joke?" "Sit down." I don't mean to yell, but this is serious. He sits. "Now, I need you to keep calm and not talk to anyone about this. The media catches wind that we got a killer clown out there. They might sensationalize it. People think it's a joke. People start dressing up as clowns. We have an APB out right now looking for this son of a bitch. One clown is enough, all right? We have your son handcuffed in an interrogation room. Before you ask why, let me show you." Before we even enter the room, they hear their son's voice yelling, "Give me back to Bobo! I want to be with Bobo! Let me go!" When they see him, they both stop in their tracks. Their son is painted with clown makeup. Under the makeup, you can see dozens of fresh scabs and scars. He's wearing a comedic outfit, uncountable pockets and funny bright colors. He pulls at the handcuffs. He keeps begging, yelling, to be returned to his master, Bobo the Clown. The mother runs over to him. "Baby, it's me, Mom." "Jesus, officer, Get the cuffs off of him. I get out my keys and cautiously unlock the boy. He's already bitten 2 officers. Mom, the boy says. Dad? We're here now, son. That strange man can't hurt you anymore. He's not strange. He's magnificent and funny. Better than you two. Bobo told me you'd come for me and to show you this trick. The boy pulls out a flower and shows it to his parents. Pretty flower. Don't! I yell, but it's too late. The flower squirts in both the parents' faces, and they drop immediately. Why didn't they search the damn kid? He points the flower at me. I duck and cover my face, but some of the liquid still gets me. I desperately try to rub it off, but I'm feeling dizzy. I hear the door slam as the kid runs. I yell into the radio. Get the Narcan! Officer down! Get the... Every night, I see a clown outside my window. Author deleted. I was 12 when I first saw it. I looked out my window, and across the street, at the edge of the woods, was a clown. The carnival was in town and on the other side of the woods, but I still didn't know why there was a lone clown just looking at my house from across the street. I closed my curtains and tried my best to sleep, but even though there was a thin, dark veil of curtains between me and the clown, I still could feel it watching me. The next morning came around, and me and my family were gathered around the table for breakfast. I tried to tell my mom and dad about the clown, but they just wrote it off as a bad nightmare. What kind of clown was it? My little brother asked. Now, Jimmy, you eat your food, my mom said. I was hoping they were right. I was hoping that it was just a bad dream, but of course, it wasn't. That same night I went to bed. Just before turning in, I looked out the window to see if the clown was still there. Turns out he was. I ran into Mom and Dad's bedroom and told them. My dad ran to my bedroom to look out the window, and surprisingly, the clown was still there, standing and watching. James, you stay in the house. That's when my mom came in and looked out the window to see the clown staring at us. Oh my God! My dad ran out with his hunting rifle. Get out of here, and don't you come back! The clown turned and walked back into the woods. The next morning, my dad made it a point to go to the carnival and tell them what had been happening with the clown situation. It worked out because my mother was thinking about taking us anyway. Come on, kids. It's summer. Why don't we go down? Me and my brother were waiting for a chance to go to the carnival. By afternoon that day, we were heading to the fairgrounds. Dizzying rides, fried foods, and fun games that me and my brother knew we would spend our whole allowance on. All right, you kids, stick together and have fun. Me and Jimmy went off to ride some rides, while Dad and Mom went to chew out management for the clown situation. After winning a large plush elephant for my younger brother and a few deep-fried Oreos, we almost completely forgot about the clown situation until we saw it. The clown, the one outside my window. He was at the entrance of one of the big tops. I wasn't thinking at the time and approached the man. Hello. Well, howdy, howdy, you kids. You here to see the big show? What's the show? Well, there will be a magician and a comedian and even a tightrope act. I knew the next question sounded weird, but I had to ask it. Are you the one standing outside our house every night? He looked confused. Can't say I am. Never been to your house. Oh, okay. Do you ever go into the woods? Well, maybe a time or two for a drink. Now, that's none of y'all business. Just go in and enjoy the show. Me and my brother went into the ring for the performance. We loved it. We practically laughed at every joke, and the tightrope act kept us on the edge of our seat. After the performance, the sun was setting, and we went out to see what looked like the manager talking to the clown at the entrance. Kids, I hear Mom yell, come on, we're going home. Me and my brother were exhausted after the day. We went home to bathe and eat a meal before calling it a night. That night, I woke up to the sound of my front door opening. I looked out to see not only the same clown at the edge of the forest, but also my little brother heading for him. My first instinct wasn't to get my parents, but instead to run as quickly as possible to retrieve my brother before it was too late. I went outside and saw Jimmy follow the clown, who had retreated into the vast expansion of woods. I took my flashlight and made my way into the dark woods to try and find him. I'm not going to lie and say I felt brave. It was terrifying. I felt like there was something always behind me. I felt like there were monsters just out of my vision, waiting to pounce on me. An attack. I cried as I called out my brother's name. Jimmy! Jimmy! That's when I heard my name get called in return. I ran in the direction of the voice and saw my brother. Jimmy! I said, relieved. Come on, we gotta get home. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. Jimmy? I asked, wondering if that was really him I was seeing. That's when I heard something from behind me that startled me. It was Jimmy, the real one. Brother! I turned to look at him. Then I turned to look at the thing, only to see it wasn't Jimmy anymore. It was me. I shook, and that's when I heard my dad's voice calling us from the entrance of the woods. I took Jimmy and ran with that thing behind us, still staring at us. I ran up to my dad. What in tarnation are you kids doing out here? The first question I thought to ask was out of the blue but necessary. How do I know it's really you? My dad gave me a confused look. That's when we heard the sound of what seemed to be a deer being killed in the distance, ripped to shreds by the sounds of it. We ran home and locked the door. For the better part of a month, we could hear the creature running through the woods, killing deer and anything else it could get its hands on. I have no idea why it didn't kill me, or Jimmy, or the clown from the carnival. My dad and Mom had prohibited us from ever going into the woods again, because whatever that thing is, it is done stalking. It wants to hunt now. Frightening Clowns. Author unknown. I don't know what's wrong with the people in my town, that they would look the other way on this kind of thing. I really don't. For that matter, what kind of sick people run around town dressed like that? These demented individuals who get off on frightening others just make no sense to me. Unfortunately, things have gotten worse as of late, and it all started with the Bellows Circus Troupe that set up shop in downtown's Kensington Park a few weeks ago. Apparently, that was all it took to bring the dumbest fad this country has gone through since that stupid dance from 20 years ago to my hometown. Now that the Cooktown PD has bagged and toe tagged 2 bodies, I don't see too many people laughing. I'm certainly not. This whole thing is straight out of the Twilight Zone. But then again, my town has always had a strange mojo about it. It's best not to get into it. Just trust me. Honestly, I can't say I didn't enjoy running the blade across the necks of those paint-faced scumbags. Have you ever seen what someone with makeup caked all across their face looks like when gasping for air? It's fucking glorious. I've never been able to climax without doing the bad thing before, and it felt amazing. Hopefully, these degenerate savages will pick up and leave. I got to say, though, I will miss wielding that blade. I love turning the tables. I love frightening clowns. Threes are clowns. Deleted author. The nurse told me to get ready to go home. Thank God. I have finally recovered from paranoia. My parents forced me to get help, get therapy, and stay in the hospital after I attempted to take my life a year ago. I feel proud of myself that I've recovered. I can finally live a normal life. 2 years ago, I dropped out 2 days after when I saw those 3 black figures standing outside on the backyard while they were constantly staring at me. I sometimes feel like my mind is slowly shutting down. I sometimes have those thoughts that when I kept staring back at those 3 figures standing in the backyard, my vision gets blacker and blacker. It was hypnotizing, but that was 2 years ago. I dropped out of school because my mind was messing up somehow. I couldn't concentrate. Every night, I'd have dreams of those 3 figures ripping out my insides as I was tied on the cold metal table. They were wearing masks, clown masks, probably made from the 80s, but when they stood outside my mom's house, they had no faces, but they wore black hoodies. Anyway, the nurse told me to follow her outside to meet my parents. I can't wait. As me and the nurse made it to the back door of the hospital, she slowly opened the door. I quickly ran out to hug my parents, but I stopped. There, I saw those 3 clown masks looking down on me with bloody knives in their hands.
Hello. We thought we lost you for a moment, but we came here to make your dreams come to life.
Children from all over town are going missing at the same playground by Forgotten Well. I couldn't believe it when Dad said he was taking me to the park. Normally, on Dad's weekend, he just sits me on the couch and turns on Netflix. I think the only reason he fought for partial custody was to make Mom's life a little worse. Hey, Dad, want to push me on the swing? Sure, bud. Let me talk to this couple first. Then I'll push you as high as you like. Dad took out his detective's badge and hung it around his neck. You're here for work. You're not supposed to take me to work. Mom's gonna be pissed. It'll be our little secret. Dad winked and walked off. He's always working when he shouldn't be. It's part of why Mom left him. Dad says I'm too old to cry, but I really thought he wanted to play, so I couldn't help but let out a tear. Why the sad face? Sitting on the other swing was some kid. His face was painted white, and he was wearing a funny multicolored suit. Where'd you come from? I asked. He turned and pointed to a small blue tear painted on his face. You called for me, the boy said, pointing to the tear on my own cheek. The name's Skippy. Skippy the clown. Are you here to cheer me up? I asked, wiping away my tear. I'm not very funny, but I can do a magic trick. Wanna see? Sure. Skippy reached into his jacket and pulled out a green balloon and a thick black string. He blew up the balloon as big as a bike and lassoed it with the string. When he let go of the balloon, it started to float. Wicked, I said. This is yours, Skippy said. Let's tie it around your wrist so you don't lose it. Okay. I held out my wrist, happy that at least one thing went right today. Oh, and whatever you do, Skippy said, pulling the knot painfully tight, don't scream. I put my badge back in my pocket and walked towards the playground. This couple said the same thing as the last ones. They took their child to the playground, looked away for a second, and poof, kid vanished. Who's ready to swing? I asked. Only I don't see my son. Just an empty swing, rocking back and forth, and a single shoe lying underneath. I examined the shoe, and it's my son's all right. But where's the rest of him? Suddenly, something smashed into the ground next to me. It was my son's other shoe. I tried to see where the shoe fell from, but all I could see was a group of small green dots in the sky. I pulled out my phone, pointed it at the sky, and zoomed in as far as I could. There were half a dozen of them up there, emaciated, blood dripping down their wrists and onto their clothes. But they were all smiling at the sight of their new friend. The Carnival Clown, author unknown. I applied everywhere for jobs and only got one. It was in a city I did not know well, and where empty, affordable apartments were scarce. I searched and found nothing. Finally, I read online about an apartment that no one wanted to move into. The man who had been living there had started ranting about clowns and carnivals and then disappeared as if into thin air. I tend towards getting freaked out easily, and normally you could not pay me to move into a place with this kind of a backstory. But my job had already started. My savings were dwindling, and I knew no one that I could stay with, so I felt like I had no choice. I signed the papers with some trepidation and moved in. The building was new and in a decent part of town, and the rent for that specific apartment had been lowered. When first alone in the apartment, it looked all pristine, shiny, energy-efficient appliances, but I felt some kind of dark, malevolent presence watching me. I knew it had been cleaned, but in some of the corners and closets, I found things. Just trash, like some old ticket stubs, old popcorn, greasy wadded-up napkins. I swept it up and threw it all out. The feeling of being watched increased, and I felt goosebumps all over. I tried to spend as little time in the apartment as possible. I went to poetry readings at the library to just get away, coming home to sleep. But every night since I've moved in, I've had the same dream. I'm in a grassy field just off of an abandoned carnival. It's cold, wet, and foggy. Through the fog, I can make out a Ferris wheel and some other rides. I'm shivering cold, barefoot, and in my pajamas. A cold wind blows and trash from a fair or carnival swirls around me. At first I was alone, but now there are distant figures coming closer towards me. The thing is, I've been feeling more and more tired. It's like I haven't been sleeping. And when I wake up, the bottom of my feet are cold, muddy, and wet. Also, I've found mud and grass in the sheets. Whenever I look too closely at my apartment, I find more trash in the corners, old popcorn, torn ticket stubs, and greasy napkins. I've never popped popcorn in here. My work is suffering. Then there is what they say I did to the printer. I went to print off some copies of something for work, and the printer came to life as I was still putting the report into it. It started making copy after copy of a flyer showing an ad for a carnival opening 5 years in the future. It kept going and going. I went for help and got Maggie, the one everyone goes to for help with the copy machine. She tried everything she knows to make the printer stop, but it kept printing flyers until it ran out of paper. We've had to unplug the thing because as long as it's on, it keeps printing it. I had a meeting with HR where I was told I cannot use office materials for my own pursuits, and also put on notice about the spam that has been coming from my company email address about the same carnival opening. I was frustrated, like I would want to run a carnival or even be near one after the nightmares I've been having. I asked a neighbor if he knew of any job openings, since I'm afraid I'm about to get fired. He said he would look around. Then he asked me to stop playing that creepy carnival music. He said it can be heard in my apartment during the day while I'm out at work. He said it was in poor taste given what happened to the former occupant of my apartment. More exhausted than ever, I flopped onto my couch in my apartment. I can see piles of old ticket stubs and even bits of cotton candy, but I don't care anymore. I'm too tired to clean or even think. The thing, that nameless, faceless, evil presence, has broken me. Next thing I know, I'm back in the dream. I'm in the field, this time still wearing the same work clothes I wore when awake. It's a moonlit night here, and the fog is lifted. The figures in the distance are coming towards me. They get closer than I've let them get before. Normally, I startle awake out of fear when they get this close, but I can't seem to wake up this time. I can make out features now. Their faces are covered in clown makeup. Each of them have a huge smile painted on. Their clothes are parodies of real clothes. Oversized bow ties, large pants held up by suspenders, and clashing patterns assault my eyes. They are close enough now that I can look in their eyes. Those empty, dead eyes. And I don't know if they are here to kill me or welcome me into their midst. It's okay. I'm only dreaming. Unknown author. My eyes snapped open. I immediately tried to get up. I couldn't move, no matter how hard I tried. I could barely move my eyes. I've had several sleep paralysis spells in the past few weeks, so I wasn't scared. It's okay. I'm only dreaming. He slowly shambled into view of the dim light that my bedside lamp gave off in my room. He was wearing a clown mask with an impossibly wide grin. He got closer and ran his hand up and down my body. His breath was hard and heavy behind his mask. "It's okay. I'm only dreaming." He carefully lifted his mask just over his mouth and began biting off my toes, one by one. The blood ran down his chin, soaking into my bed sheets. All the while, the clown's eyes stared blankly up at me. He's eating his way up to my knees now. The pain feels too real, and I still can't move. But it's okay. I'm only dreaming. The Carnival Prize, author unknown. The rich smell of greasy fried food permeated the air as a shrill and nasally voice beckoned loudly.
"Step right up, folks. Win a prize. 50 cents a ball or $1 get you 3. You there, red baseball cap. Come on, kiddo. What you say? Knock over all 3 cans. How about it?"
The hour had become late, and the carnival was winding down, but Bobby looked up at his mother from beneath his favorite A's cap and begged, "Can I, Mom? Huh? Can I try? I want to win you that pink teddy bear." He pointed to a small, cheap plush bear of garish pink. Its black eyes appeared forlorn, as if it wanted nothing more than to get the hell away from this carnival. She licked remnants of cotton candy from her lips and smiled lovingly at her only child. It was hard to deny him anything, especially after the recent loss of his father. "Sure, Tiger, you bet." She fished a single crumpled dollar bill from her purse and passed it to him. He smiled in return as he said, "Thanks, Mom." He handed it over to the carny and asked politely, "3, please." The short, plump man dropped 3 baseballs onto the worn wooden partition between them, stood back, and grinned knowingly. This dumb brat could knock over a paper bag with those scrawny little arms. Another easy buck in his pocket. Bobby studied the seemingly wobbly aluminum milk cans for a moment, squinting his eyes and creasing his forehead. Satisfied, he wound up and pitched. The ball skewed left because of the small lead weight inside of it. He frowned, considered the second ball, and pitched again. It flew to the right and missed. He tossed the third ball in his hands, feeling it, weighing it, observing the subtle difference between this ball and the others. He narrowed his eyes and glared at the carny. His lips peeled back from his teeth angrily. "You're a filthy cheater, asshole!" The carny feigned shock, then grinned mischievously. "My dad hated cheaters." Bobby spat. Then he curled his knuckles expertly on the ball and let it fly with every ounce of his strength. It struck the carny's forehead with an audible thwop, cracking open his skull. His eyes rolled upwards, revealing yellowing bloodshot whites. Specks of gelatinous brain matter and droplets of thick red blood flew everywhere as he crumpled in a heap, dead before he hit the ground. "Yay! I won!" Bobby shouted, happily. Happy Meal, deleted author. "You say you're being followed, ma'am?" "Yes, he's everywhere. A tall clown in a red and yellow suit, with red all over his mouth, and huge shoes. I see him at restaurants, standing by the counter. I see him sitting on benches, not moving, while people come and go without paying any attention to him. I've seen him on billboards, on paper bags, in toy stores, even by hospitals. You have to stop him. He looked at her seriously. Ma'am, are you saying that you're scared of Ronald McDonald? Her eyes bulged wide with anger as she stood and pointed out the police station window. Does that look like Ronald McDonald to you? The cop looked out at the bus stop across the street to see a tall, balding clown with a blood-soaked mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. The clown waved. The cop slowly stood, reaching for his gun. No, ma'am, that does not. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.